Hello, fellow scapers. I'm the host, Mod Acorn, and with me is Mod Husky and Mod West.
Hello.
Hello.
So this live stream is a little bit different. It's not just a regular Q&A style. We are doing more of like a podcast, so chill, listen to us talk about the rewards, go through a little bit like behind the scenes with the design process. So it's going to be unscripted. So there's no pre-questions. That could be dangerous. Just a heads up.
So, wait. You're saying the Q&As are normally scripted?
Not like full on, but they've got the here's the announcement section, here's the questions, and like who's answering which question. In this time, it's literally just going to be us talking over each other and knowing who knows what's going to happen. So let's just find out. Alright. So just before we go ahead into this live stream, a heads up, while we normally do have announcements, just one thing, maybe two, I lied, two. First thing is tomorrow is a live stream. That'll be your Q&A style live stream. So that'll be the leadership live stream. So that's where you get your spicy questions answered. Spicy. And then also the Gillinor Gazette for August is not here yet. I know it's September, it's late, winter 2017, okay? But it is going to arrive on the 3rd of September, hopefully, assuming that Sweden handled it. So, yeah, cool. So, before we dive into, so we have a presentation. We know it's a little different than what you guys are used to seeing. We don't normally do a PowerPoint, so it's going to be handled behind the scenes with ModSphere. So ModSphere has the clicker, so it'll be a little bit interesting, but we'll try to make it work. Before we start, let's have this conversation about what is a Trailblazer, because we have it as the name of the league. We had some people asking, like, what does it mean and what is a theme? And this is kind of where all these like rewards came from. So who would like to start on what is a Trailblazer?
Well, I mean, you could just Google the word and find the description of it, right? It's sort of like an explorer, sort of someone who's trailblazing, creating sort of like the original trail to follow, essentially.
Yeah, when we were looking at the theme of the league, we were like, before we decided the name of what the league was going to be and stuff, we were like, what's the kind of theme of this league? I guess, right? Because last one was Twisted, Zaya, the Twisted Bow, the Twisted Buckler. It's kind of easy to go to the league, and this is like, is it just the Gillinor League? I don't know. So we kind of had this idea of like an exploration sort of character, like the idea that you're choosing which lands to explore. And Trailblazer is supposed to capture that, right? The idea that you are like blazing your own trail, you're picking the things that you like to do, and you're and the people who do that really well, and the Trailblazers, like who aren't just copying people, I guess, the people who think outside the box and which ones to unlock and which ones are going to get the most points, like they're the people who are going to come out ahead. So we think the name fits pretty well, but that's kind of what we were going for.
Yeah, like the chat has mentioned someone like a pioneer, sort of a similar theme.
I mean, a lot of them are also saying you should have just named it the Wooks League, if that's what you're describing as a Trailblazer. So there's that as well.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
Alright, so we also had this, it's quite obvious when you look at the rewards in the blog that there's this kind of color palette where things are like blues and beige and kind of browns. Do you want to talk us through, Mod West, like why we chose that color palette, and maybe why not fire, like blaze it? Orange, red.
For sure. Like the sort of the Trailblazer name sort of has inspires the idea of fire, but we're not sort of focusing on that element, as the Trailblazing name doesn't really reflect fire. So we wanted to come up with a nice color palette that sort of had the theme of exploring, so sort of like the dusty, sandy, greeny colors, sort of like that, and then the sort of like when you're exploring, you see generally lots of sky, so the blue sky as well ties in with that quite nicely, and generally just sort of works quite nice together. And that was sort of the idea we had when we were sort of coming up with the color palette together.
I remember when we were like, so what we typically do, or nowadays, we've kind of like storyboard something where we kind of look through what are some like images that kind of represent what we're like the mood we're going for, right? And I remember just like Indiana Jones being quite prevalent on there. It's like the idea of just someone who's going through, but obviously we can't copy Indiana Jones because that's like copyright. So
Well, I mean, yeah, Indiana Jones just sort of embodies that sort of explorer motif with the leather jacket, the whip, and that sort of classic hat. Is it the fedora, or is it? Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Initially, we obviously when we first started getting the mood board together, we were just looking for like these sort of explorer type characters, looking for people generally wearing leather and tans, so that sort of fitted quite nicely as we eventually got the all of it together, and we wanted sort of like a nice highlight color as well, and that's sort of where the blue came from.
I saw that Turtletail was asking for an Indiana whip recolor. That was something, Von Husky, that you could talk about.
Yeah, we did actually have a reward that we pitched internally about like a reskin for the whip that would make it look like a traditional leather whip. But when we're looking at these league rewards, I guess this will come up in discussion later a little bit, but we kind of need to decide, are they going to be used? Are they going to be worthwhile? Are people going to use it? And it kind of just came down to like the whip is so... Like the amount of people who actively use an Abyssal Whip are so low compared to like the alternatives these days, like using the Abyssal Tentacle, the Blade of Sildar, Grazi Rapier, and all this sort of stuff, that like, is this just going to be too niche? Like, people are going to go, oh, it's a whip recolor, but like whips were 07's best in slot weapon, right? And we have different stuff now. And that's not to say we're only going for best in slot. It's just, I think that weapons are in a position where people really do focus on having best in slot. Getting a lot of questions.
You're getting a lot of question marks.
I have a feeling the players are more thinking about the sort of mid-level players who still like to use, basic whip without using the additional add-ons to it.
Oh, absolutely, there are people, right? There are people. It's iconic. It's just kind of like we felt like the tools, I suppose, fit into that better. Like more people use these tools more generally, and this league isn't really like combat isn't supposed to be a theme of this league, if that makes sense. It's all about exploring and having your sort of your outfit and your tools that go with it kind of just felt nicer, I suppose. There's no right or wrong answer. We just kind of had a lot of votes internally. You want to go for the whip or do you want to go for the tools? And people decided the tools, right? So I'm not saying the whip would be a bad reward.
There's also a lot of questioning about, like when we pitched the rewards for the Twist League initially, the Ancestral set wasn't overly well received and they'd rather that come from in-game content. And I can imagine a similar sort of feeling for the Abyssal Whip. If you wanted a new cosmetic version, much like the Lava and Fire Whip, or Lava and Ice Whip, you'd want that to be obtainable in the game itself rather than from a separate game mode.
Yeah.
Enter the Bone Whip.
Don't get me wrong. I know Widow looks sick, right? And I think you've got an element of like, we don't want too many rewards from this. We just kind of had to pick the ones the team felt we liked the most. And as I said, it came to an internal vote, and people like the tools more than the whip. And I know there are going to be some players out there who are going to say, "I hate the tools, give me the whip," but you can't please everyone, right? So.
Yep. So we talked about color palette. Now let's go through the rewards. Mod Spear, can you take us away to the slideshow presentation? Cool. This is the first slide. Next slide.
Well, I mean, that slide sort of shows the logo and sort of the new approach we sort of came to doing that as well. We structured it a little bit better so we can sort of plan for future leagues as well. People noticed like a slight change in terminology there when it came to referring to it as leagues and league and where the number comes in and all that.
When the next Twisted League is going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a lot of confusion where someone's like, is Twisted League 2 coming? And it's like, it's leagues. Twisted was just the theme of the last league. So it made it a lot easier to be like, no, this is how it works. It's leagues, number 2, Trailblazer.
Obviously at the time we didn't know what the next league was going to be called, so we can be like, no, it'll be called this. Yeah, we couldn't really say that at the time.
The last league was, for all intents and purposes, a pilot, right? Like, anything and everything we did was, let's see if this works, let's see if people like it, and if they don't like it, we just won't do another one. And people did really like it, so that's when we decide, okay, we're going to start doing these from now on, because people really like the content. let's have like a sort of standard name for it. Let's do all this, you know. So
yeah, and also
Okay.
the
And
backplate. As I say, the
Go
backplate as
ahead.
well. I went through a few iterations as well because we wanted to sort of like take that shield motif and put that more into the title itself, and have the backing plate a bit more versatile for like future leagues as well. Because the shield before had quite a few colors in it, so we wanted to sort of mix up a little bit.
And so if people don't know Roman numerals, that is not 11. That's not league number 11. We are on league number 2. Okay, Roman numerals here. I saw someone say league 11. We are not that far. Maybe one day. So, all right, let's go to the Relic Hunter outfit.
Sweet. So yeah, this is the, as we said, spoken about sort of the Indiana Jones sort of style of character. We got sort of like a waistcoat there, boots, sort of, someone who's going to be walking around a lot. We sort of want to hammer home that sort of the thematic as well, and then as well give like a nice sort of varied color palette as well, showing the clear distinction. Want to be a bit more, a bit more distinctive. While the Twisted outfit had the as it progressed, it had more of the main color appear in it. We wanted to keep the main color, the blues, and the sort of the tanned, desaturated colors still involved in the whole way, and then just get more and more sort of saturated as it went, and a bit more interesting with the highlights.
I noticed that some keen-eyed players noticed that in the first league we offered like a staff / like cane, but there doesn't appear to be one here with the tier 3. Is that something that will be coming?
Yeah, we also have the tier 3 will come with an item as well to be held in hand, right hand slot, a weapon slot, and unsure why it's not in this image. Maybe a mistake on our behalf. But yeah, it'll be like more like a walking stick rather than a cane, as a cane itself doesn't really fit the exploring motif quite as well. But a walking stick does a little bit more. So yeah, we can get that out soon as well. Show you what that looks like. But I mean, it is generally just a stick with some cloth wrapped around the top. So not overly interesting.
It's a stick for all the people that choose to not activate their passive relic effect and just continue to walk regardless. So walking stick.
the people who never unlock the first relic and do the entire league without any relics and just walk the entire time. But no, like I think the Twisted Cane was like the best accidental addition ever. For being honest,
yeah, sure.
because when you were when you were designing that league character, you were like, I'm just going to recolor a rune cane and give it to him because it looks cool.
Yeah, it was perfectly for the Relic Hunter, the league shooter himself. It was never really expected to be part of the final outfit, but it looked so cool. I figured, add it in.
Yeah, and then I was like, let's just give it to people. And then we were already talking like people playing the league were thinking, oh, this Relic Unlock emote's super cool. I just wish I could do it like after the league ends. Or I wish I could do it more times because I only got to do it like 3 or 4 or 5 times depending on the relics they unlocked. I think it was actually yourself, Acorn, that had the suggestion to put it like on the cane or on the outfit or something, and I was like, there we go. We've got a way to make it work, and yeah. It was like the best accidental thing because it's single-handedly like holding like 6 mil in value, or when I last checked, it was around about that. It might be more, it might be less now. Someone, this is what happens when you quote numbers on chat. Like, as a JMod, you don't know the exact GP that thing's worth. But like, no, it added so much value to that tier 3 set. It's actually been a pretty good reward.
For anyone that might not see it as obvious, can you explain which one on the image is tier 1, tier 2, and 3, just so it's quite obvious which one you're getting?
So yeah, the ones on the left is the tier 1, the one in the middle is tier 2, and the one on the right is tier 3. So the one with the cream trimming is the final tier.
Cool. And I do remember, so we had this in the first league where we called Relic Hunter one word, so it was just Relic Hunter one word outfit. However, when editorial had a discussion with us, they said it sounds weird because you could interpret it as Rally Chunter, which Chunter is actually a word, which is to grumble or to move along slowly. So they had requested us to change it as 2 separate words. So you might see that this will be named slightly different in terms of a space added.
Yeah, I never really got it before. I don't know if it was me or Husky that did the config name for that one, but yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
If we need to change it to Relic Dash Hunter, Relic Space Hunter, even on the existing one, we can do that. That's not the end of the world.
That
It
was
needs-
definitely a sneak peek on our internal conversations. Like, what held the blog up? Well, I don't know. We had a debate for about a good hour on whether or not the name should have a space in it. There's the first thing.
Yeah, it's not the first that sort of happened. I know, well, obviously not related to old school, but there's the Song of Ice and Fire book series. A lot of people read one character's name as the Damn Fair, even though it's supposed to be Damp Hair, but because it's pushed together, the P and the H make that F sound, which I always thought was quite funny as well, because that doesn't make any sense for him to be the Damn Fair. But I suppose the same in this case as well. A Relic Hunter doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have the next slide of Modsphere to kind of show players how we got to the concept. So, oh yeah, I forgot this one. See, this is on the fly. So yeah, we've got this animation to kind of show you what it looks like from behind. No puns, but you know, in case you wanted to see what it looked like in the back.
Oh, we get to see the staff as well, which is handy.
Yep.
Oh, this is my silly, like... I had to make this window as small as possible because otherwise the GIF would be really, really large. And people complained about a really large GIF that I sent internally. I think someone said to me the GIF
like
I sent internally was
70
so
meg.
large it was bigger than the actual game download. That was the joke.
I think
internally.
it was like 70 meg or even over 100 meg. It was pretty chunky.
So I made it really small, and as I was rotating, I'm like, oh, there's a flag. That's why we need to go up, and that's why it's so shaky. Because the standard arrow key rotate is too fast, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, I have that problem whenever doing the old dead man spectating. You can't really use the arrow keys to pan. You have to very slowly move the camera with your mouse, which is always quite painful.
Does anyone else think of the firmly grasp it meme from the SpongeBob with that walking stick? Because it 100% looks like that. Firmly grasp it.
That's the case with all weapons. Well, I mean, more so with staff weapons, but yeah, it's the case with all of them. There's a few weapons that obviously have, like, you know, ones with hilts. It seems a bit less, it's more hidden because the hilt sort of covers the actual join. But I mean, hands in our game are literally just, you know, very awkward, you know, spheres essentially. So it's always going to be the case until we have a larger density vert grid, which I don't really see happening.
There are a few players asking where's the female models. This is because Mod Husky does like only had a male character at the time. We do have female models. So.
Yeah, we saw the female one in the previous slide.
Okay. Let me see. You guys keep talking, and I will go get some female.
Okay, so here we have the we have some of the
I'm gonna get the items, and I'm gonna put an imgur or something in chat with the female one.
All right, go ahead, Mod West. Talk about.
Cool. So here are the concepts used to sort of play around with the different styles of the outfit. As you can see, you can probably see elements of them all in the final one. I think the main one there is the H that was used. As you can see, the elements from the headgear in A as well as also been used, and some of the I think the footwear changed a lot between going from concept to actual model itself as well. But as you can see, yeah, it's a wide range of styles, but they're all sort of similar in that idea of someone who would go out exploring, someone who would maybe do some research in some areas, especially the I think G and C sort of has that appeal to it. So yeah, that's essentially the thought process there.
I think we kind of liked E and H the most, right? Was that not the winners internally? Like, because we were all split and like, oh, so I think it's kind of a combination of both of those.
Yeah.
You've got the leg strap from E in the Relic Hunter outfit now. I definitely remember choosing E, but then I got outvoted, so we went more with H.
It was never going to be like a direct. I mean, obviously H is the one that was used mostly, but it's taken elements of the other designs as well.
I do like all of them, to be fair. I think they would make really good outfits for future, like whether it's leagues or even just like future cosmetics, maybe in an expansion somewhere at like a shop, similar to how we did loads of outfits when Darkmire came out.
Yeah, same for Song of the Elves.
I think C is very much like what we've got with the existing one, right? The Twisted League one?
Yeah, with the long coat, it's quite similar to the Twisted one. The same with the hat as well, actually, yeah.
I think we purposely tried to stay away from hats this time because we have so many hats in the game that it just started all looking the same in the end. Like there was just how many hats could we make different?
Yeah,
so
so I wanted to
went
look
with more of a
towards having
scarf.
a hood scarf sort of thing. It's quite cool.
All
Maybe we could try
right,
doing something
so
a bit different future leagues as well. Maybe doing something a bit more like F with the goggles on the head.
that would be so cool, steampunk style. But that's not very like, I don't know. Is that very old school? Seems very
Well, we've got the goggles
modern.
for the gnome goggles are sort of sort of give that sort of impression. I mean, we can't go into too much detail with goggles anyway due to the low fidelity of the old school characters.
Alright, let's go to the banner next. Hopefully I put this in the right order. I can't even remember. Oh no!
Oh, we've got some interesting
We've
bugs
got some
for
funny bugs, because why not? So obviously, with any time we introduce new outfits, we always have some sort of problem somewhere down the line. These are some things that came up when testing. I think that's your character, Mod Husky, or is it Mod Curse's character?
It might be mine, but it looks like Curses because I copied one of his saves from a previous playtest.
Okay. The bottom one's hilarious. We had this problem in Darkfire when we introduced the new outfits, where like arms were not moving in places. So of course the first thing we check is how can we make sure that doesn't happen again. And so we were testing that, and then obviously, yeah, someone lost the head.
And I can go into a bit more detail about why these sort of bugs occur as well. So with the stretching ones, it's usually because when you're setting up they're called the labels of each polygon, which sort of denotes which part of the body that's attached to. You'd have like the right shoulder, the left shoulder, torso, lower arm, stuff like that. And when some of these become misaligned and they don't quite know what to do with that join, so say say the shoulder's called leg instead, and it doesn't know what to do between leg and torso. I mean, or it does know what to do between leg and torso. It will treat it as a leg, so it start moving it as if it was a leg, or at least a leg join. So that's sort of why those sort of stretching problems occur. And they, sometimes occur as well in game. Sometimes in the past, they've gone live where maybe like a polygon will just be missing its label completely, so that would sort of be left behind, causing some rather unfortunate stretching. As for the other two, that's more of a sequence order problem where the shoulder itself has a higher render order than the face, which is causing the shoulders to render through it. And also, I think the problem with the actual hair there coming through the hood was that the config wasn't set up quite properly, so it wasn't quite removing the head model that plays, obviously they have hair, which sort of denotes that sort of slot. And because that wasn't being replaced, I think it was just a hat that was being replaced. So yeah, it's trying to render both the head and the hood at the same time, which is causing that rather strange image there on the left.
I do remember the construction contracts when we playtested it internally. I bought the carpenter's helmet / hat, and I had pigtails on, and the pigtails were coming through the hat and I was like, this is really cute, honestly, so I don't know if I want it fixed. I'm not sure if it actually was fixed, but
it wouldn't be possible to fix that, unfortunately, because the carpenter helmet would be labeled as a hat itself, so it wouldn't replace the head items. Usually, we design hair models to sort of not interfere too much with the head slot, but I suppose in that case, we haven't quite planned that as we would have liked to. The other option would obviously be to just remove it completely and replace it with a bald head, or just sort of like a trimmed down hair, which obviously doesn't quite replicate what the players have chosen. So yeah, there's a few unfortunate bugs like that sort of pop up.
Okay. So this is me just very quickly in paint with snipping tool, grabbing some quick images of what they look like on females so people can see.
They exist.
They exist. We have female outfits. Gender equality.
But you didn't get a back view, so can you just start over, please?
Need to do a full 360.
Chat doesn't need that.
I think they do. Alright, let's go to the banner. The next slide. Cool. Mod West, take it away.
Cool. So, much like we had the banner for the Twisted League, we wanted to create something for the Trailblazer League as well. So, given that it was starting Mr. Lin, I figured it would be best to use symbology, based on the area. So we've taken the sort of that sort of chevron style symbol that was that could be seen on the banners around Lumbridge, I believe. We also wanted to. I quite liked the use of the. I think if you look at the twisted banner, it has I think it's the dragon Hasta, sort of as the main staff component. So we sort of wanted to do something similar to that. So I've taken the dragon spear and sort of used that as the main pole itself. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And obviously, adjusting the colours to match the sort of Trailblazer theme, so the blues, the creams, and the browns.
We do have an image, which is next, if you want to go for it, Modsphere, which is us trying to figure out how we want that symbol to look. And I think we had about 2 days worth of discussions looking through different symbols and saying which one looks better.
Let's clarify that. This wasn't like a whole team spending 2 days talking about a banner.
It's just a discussion that lasted.
This was like on and off in chats. Like we're like, oh, like this one. Do you like that one? Like random post some images, get on with their work, come back to the chat.
And it was like, can you just move this up? Can you move it down? Can you just make it a little bit bigger? And then it just come about with 20 variants, and we're like, which one did we choose in the end?
We've created an argument now in the chat. Everyone's voting for their favourite. I'm not too sure if they're going from left to right or right to left though. So
which one have we actually gone with? Is it 3?
I want to see it.
I don't even know. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. We went with 3. I think the thing that the thing that quite a few of us ended up agreeing on was we didn't like the symbol going out of the sort of borders of the frame of the banner, if that makes sense. But like we still wanted the symbol to be quite prominent, so that was like the middle ground for that.
I think the original suggestion was the one on the far right that has quite a lot of empty space at the bottom, and that was why initially it required a bit more balancing of the image itself. I feel like 3 sort of meets that quite happy medium. Also changing the shape of the actual chevron itself is quite cool. I think initially it didn't quite match the flag as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but every time you say chevron, I just start thinking about the car, like Chevrolet. It's really bad. But then I remember it's a triangle.
It's definitely I'm using the right terminology, right? That'd be embarrassing if I'm not. Yeah, I mean, pretty much just.
Alright, let's go to the next reward, shall we?
Cool, so this is the League teleport. So much like the Twisted League had a sort of a recolored version of the standard Lumbridge teleport, we wanted to do something a bit more interesting this time. Give it a bit more of the Trailblazer theme. So sort of like taking off, sort of putting down some cardinal directions as well as if they're sort of like planning where to go. And that's basics of the animation. We have a bit more information as well on it, sort of a further breakdown of how it came about.
And one of the neat little things we did as well is the player will face north when they do this. So like north will actually be north when you're doing that animation. It doesn't take any more time. It just doesn't delay you for as long. But this whole teleport is the exact same length as a standard home teleport down to the same thing. So yeah, I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely has sort of a Superman-esque feel as he sort of gets up into the air and then just zooms off.
I know that when we were first writing the blog, and it got scrapped, sorry guys, but when we were first writing the blog, we said that the player does the animation and then flies off into a dust storm and then did the do at the end, but then that got scrapped, so sorry guys. Sneak preview of what happens when editorial take it. They're like, no, this is bad, Acorn, take it away. So...
we got some sandstorms coming in.
Yep, sandstorms coming in. So let's go through that concept that Mod West was talking about. If we can go to the next. Cool. The dust storm.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it sort of shows you sort of the breakdown of the main keyframes of the animation itself. It's sort of handy to sort of get the groundwork done first, so we can get some feedback on it in the early stages, as animations are definitely one of the things that take the most time in terms of making old school art. So you can see, to avoid save a bit of time there, the sort of the drawing on the floor has been superimposed in Photoshop to avoid having to actually come up with that model itself first and then getting feedback on it later. And then just some basic keyframes of each of the stages of the spot on him, which is the sandstorm that goes around it. And And then once obviously that was agreed on, it was taken further and smoothed out, and but obviously based on the image that we saw just then, or the GIF we just saw.
Mod Husky, do you know if the home teleport animation for this one, so this dust storm, will that work with the mini game home teleport as well?
Yes, both teleport scripts look to the same piece of code when determining their animation right now, and I think that's the same with the Twisted League one as well, right? If you've unlocked and set the Twisted League one or the cow one as your preferred version of home teleport, then the mini game one will use it too.
Cool. And so in leagues, we did have like this as like we had the Twisted League animation changed. Will we do that for this Trailblazer League? Will everyone have this in the Trailblazer League as their home teleport animation?
Yeah, we plan to use this whenever you use a home teleport spell in the league. It's kind of like free advertising, I suppose, isn't it? If you like using it in the league, you might consider buying it afterwards. You know.
Yeah. And it gives that extra thematic, so you see people using it around you. You're like, oh yeah, I'm on a league world. Yeah, just sort of further emphasizes that.
But it wasn't always like a dust storm, right? Let's go through the next slide of what this was before. Oh, Husky's like face palming.
Yeah, it looks sick, but it had problems.
So yeah, this was the first attempt at making it. As you can see, it sort of plays on the idea of fire, which wasn't the sort of theme that we were looking to go towards. Hence why we reworked it to feel a bit more, dust themed, essentially. Of course, we could always, obviously it still exists as an asset. So if there's ever a need for something similar in the future, we could always use it still. So yeah.
So this is something I feel like players, or a lot of players might not care about, right? Is like a general sense of consistency in the rewards. And I put a tweet a while ago, back when we were like months and months ago, ideating what could possible sort of league rewards look like, right? And one of the things that came back strongly was they liked the idea that there was a theme to them, that we had Twisted for last one, so everything was those sort of colors. And this time we really were going like, okay, we want a sort of exploration, global. These were the kind of things that we were talking about. So when this animation got made, we were looking at it and we're like, the animation is sick, but it just doesn't fit the package of rewards that we are trying to put out, right? And that was why we decided to come up with the one with the compass as well. I think they're both amazing. I just think that like there's definitely scope to reuse something like this for the while, because the only link this animation had to the name is in the name Trailblazer. But Trailblazer isn't like, even though it has the part of the word blaze in it, it's not related to fire at all, right? It's about being that sort of like pioneer and person who sets forward on a trail and that sort of stuff. So it was like we came to a sort of conclusion where either we go with this animation and change everything else to be fire themed, if that's the way we want to go. But like the team were like, no, we kind of like the Explorer sort of theme generally more. So, but yeah, like I know some people that go, I don't care, that looks nicer to me, give it to me anyway, because I don't care about the theme. That's something I just have to agree to disagree on, I suppose, with people who think that. I think the theme is very important.
I do feel like it will be really useful to have for future content. Maybe a lava league, maybe like Inferno 2 unlock. I don't know. Who knows? It could be something fire related.
That's a great place to use it for League 12.
Use it for League 12.
The next one.
Alright, let's get to the next reward, shall we?
Cool. So these are the tools that we've spoken about in the blog. As you can see, they've got a sort of, well, actually, I'll let Husky talk about these ones.
Yeah, I think these are going to be harder to sell right now, and I can't really go into why. Right? But like, we were obviously talking about the idea of the tools fitting the sort of Explorer, and we were like, okay, we're looking at the Dragon tools, the Infernal tools, the Dragon versions, and we're like, let's come up with a reskin of these, right? And this comes down to like when you're designing rewards, how many people are going to use them, right? I saw some people talk about Crystal, and we talked about Crystal, and we were like, oh, hey, are not people using Crystal? Like, for us to actually consider using it? And we just kind of thought that, like maybe not. Let's not play with Crystal recolors. Crystal is a very complicated system in it as well. That like applying recolors to those items might be a bit harder, considering they've got the whole degradation thing. which is why we went with Dragon Tools. But I have also seen people say they would like it for the Infernal Tools as well, so we're considering it. I think it comes down to how much work it would be to apply it to that degradation system of Infernal Tools. But all in all, Dragon Tools are generally a lot more accessible. They have ornament kits already, so the system's already in place. So that was where we were going with this, and I think they look pretty cool, right? You know, they fit the league themes, the color schemes that you've seen in the outfit. I think it'd be sort of a cool thing to just see like a fancier tool while you're skilling.
Yeah,
So we also have an image where this wasn't actually the full-on design. We did go through a few iterations to decide whether or not we wanted, do we want to represent dragon in any way whatsoever on it? Do we want to have red? Do we want it to be at the top? Do we want it to be in the middle? So yeah, we had 3 different variations.
And I think as well, like the fact that these are 3, it's one reward that works for 3 different tools. This is way more accessible anyway, right? You know, almost everyone has a dragon axe because they're so cheap. Harpoons are a little bit more expensive, but they're also a bit more niche, right? Because how many people actually use harpoon fishing unless you're doing 2-tick, swordfish, tuna, that sort of stuff, right? Dragon pick is a little bit more expensive to get, obviously a lot more than like the whip we spoke about earlier, but like, I guess the flexibility sort of adds to it, sort of how many people are going to want to use it, right?
I think players still use the harpoon to just get that boost every now and again, even when they're doing net fishing. So I feel like it still has that use case. And now that it's not just a reward from raids, it's far more accessible now that it's a bit more cheaper and easy to obtain.
I do feel like C actually breaks up the cream a little bit. So I was seeing like a lot of players picking C as well in the chat. So I'm glad we picked the one that a lot of people like. So yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was quite funny because like this is what happens with like internal discussions, and I think this stuff is like these sorts of things are always harder with us all working from home now because it's a lot of like leave an image and you'll probably get feedback at some point in the day because you're not going over to someone's desk and bothering them, right? And we put out C originally, and people were like, I'm not quite sure I like the red sort of embedded in the blade. Maybe at the handle, maybe we don't need it at all. And then we obviously the art team produced these, and then we were like, oh, actually we do like C more. So, sort of like I don't know, playing like, pick like, I don't know what you're trying to say. It's kind of like send and receive, like emails almost. Like, you know, do you like this? And then you wait and do something else and come back for a response, which makes it harder to get that feedback. But I'm quite.
We started using those like reactions. So like that's why there's the letters on here. So then we could just react with A, B, or C really quickly, so that we don't have to like we could just quickly do that without responding. And it's probably the most efficient method we've had recently when it comes to giving feedback.
Yeah, there's elements of working from home that sort of benefit us in some ways, which is kind of funny.
It is quite funny. I'm not sure if anyone's seen it because like we use Slack internally, and it's just like so you can respond to these little letters, and as the person who put this image up, I like automatically react with all 3. So people don't even need to look for it; they just need to click the one they like, you know.
And then you'll see like the one random person putting like a Monkas next to it instead. It's like not even choosing A, B, or C.
Yep.
Alright, let's go to the next reward. The Graceful.
Yeah, so we wanted to try something a bit different than offering a Slayer helm like we did last time. So we wanted to make it a bit more skilling orientated, move it away from PVM sort of aspects. So obviously the outfit that everyone generally wears while skilling is the Graceful outfit. So taking that sort of color palette that we created for the Trailblazer League and sort of applying that to a Graceful outfit. And it's pretty much what you see is what you get there, really.
But it always wasn't like this, like with all the rest of our images. Let's go to the next one. So this was you can even see the little like pink poly for the animation. It wasn't always like that. This was the original concept where we've inverted the colors. But I feel like it was too close. Like, depending on your brightness setting, it could be a little bit too close to the original.
Yeah, like, definitely. A little bit. Considering, it's a bit more saturated than the basic Graceful outfit, but it is in terms of where it falls in the color wheel, it is quite close. So we wanted to sort of flip it around and try something that something that doesn't already exist in Graceful. And I mean, we are starting to run out of colors for Graceful, but yeah, it's a mostly brown colored Graceful wasn't something that we'd had before, so we moved more towards that.
Because that's the thing that like. It's one thing to put out a concept and be like, do you guys like this, right? When sometimes you need to see things you don't like to reinforce that you do like it, right? Because like, oh, I don't know, maybe we change that color, maybe we do this. If you tried if it was mostly a blue color, like, and I don't think we've got a picture of that, but like you start doing that, you're like, actually, we like the brown one more, you know? I think it looks pretty cool. And again, it kind of just reusing those same league colors that we've been using throughout the outfit, you know? Applying that to Graceful. I think as well, like, I said earlier that like this league isn't combat focused at all, and Slayer Helm fit pretty well for Twisted League because there was a big boss at the end of the league because it had this single piece of endgame content, and that boss happened to not have a Slayer Helm already, and we were like, let's just have a Slayer Helm themed after Olm. It fits Twisted. It feels like it's thematically fitting to the league. And like for example, if this had been a Mauritania league, like maybe we could have done the same with like Versa, right? But that didn't really fit anything, like because we were going that whole explorer thing. Like, we could have just put a Slayer helm in these colors, but it didn't work. Graceful is sort of our game's exploding outfit, right? It's the outfit anyone will wear when they're going somewhere new or just going anywhere in general. So we were like, it kind of fits, right?
I did see a few questions about the crystal on the chest. I believe that is actually an element in all the Graceful outfits. There is that sort of crystal section of it. It might always not be the blue color, but I know it definitely exists in the other
red
ones.
in the
Yeah.
in the dark Graceful. I can't help but laugh at the like all the players in chat on the cream colored Graceful talking about the poo stains in the front.
Oh God. Yeah, for those who were paying attention to chat, we are going with the darker brown one, not the yellowish one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Graceful now. That it does actually have like a sort of a green tealy sort of crystal there already. The bit below it is red as well, so it's definitely there on the original Graceful.
I think the person might have thought crystal when they saw that because crystal in our game is that kind of blue color, you know?
Yeah, similar hue.
Okay, I can't keep looking at this without laughing anymore, so let's go to the next one. Mod Husky, do you want to take us through this PoH trophy room?
Sure. So we pitched it in the blog, the idea being that I think we promised in the Twisted League that we would give you a way to store your trophies in the Player on House. And I don't think we, like, at least for myself, like, I didn't realize we'd actually said we would do that. I just thought we spoke about it. It turns out we said we would. And we were looking after the league, and we're like, do we do this? And I'm like, well, there's no real rush to, actually, because you can just destroy them and reclaim them at any moment in time. So they're not exactly taking up your bank space. And most people are only going to keep the one trophy anyway that they got at the top. So what we did was we thought, if we're not going to do this now, let's try and redo this in a really cool, much better way in the next, right? And this is kind of talking about, like, having a room where you can show off your achievements in the league to, like, people who visited stuff, right? And I think the core that everyone had was, like, there needs to be pedestals with trophies on it, right? And the idea you can just put your trophy on a pedestal and it's there. And with this design, you can kind of see in these blue boxes, you've got the, like, the idea that there's 3 pedestals. So you could display up to 3 trophies at a time, and I was playing around with different layouts, talking internally and being like, should we have them all at the back of the room and like next to each other? Should we have them all grouped in the center so they're more of a feature? We haven't decided which one we want. This is just me kind of playing around. The yellow sort of inner on the ground is a rug, which we'll cover later. This is what I can't remember what the others are. But generally, there was a banner stand. So you can, I can't remember which one's which, so that's the problem. I can't remember, right? I can't remember if red was banner or what, but the idea being that you have a banner stand where you could just like, similar to armor stands where you can create them and up to a set. Instead, you could just like place your banner in a stand and you can leave it there. There's a stand for the Relic Hunter outfit, so you could store like any of the tiers of Relic Hunter on it. And we even were talking about having, if you've got the tier 3, on whichever tier 3 armor set you got on the stand, you'll just be able to do that relic unlock emote from the emotes interface. We're talking about doing stuff like that potentially. There would also be a trophy case on there that would show you all the trophies you stored in it. It would work more like a bank in that you will see the things you've stored in it, but not the things you haven't stored in it. right? So it's not going to tell you if you come in like 5 leagues late. Here's 5 like leagues and trophies that you've missed, right? It's only going to show you, hey, you've stored these trophies in this league, right? What else is on there?
I'm
I mean,
really
you mentioned like
confused
an outfit
why,
stand as well.
like, why does A have 2 yellowish, orangish boxes, but the rest
So-
don't?
So yellow was the statue, right? Which we've
Okay.
got later on. We've got like a globe-looking one, and I was kind of playing around with, do I balance out the room with a statue on both sides? So similar to like, I think it's the altar in the Playroom House, where if you make a statue on one side, it builds on the other side too.
There's a few things to do that. I know bookshelves do that as well.
So yeah, this is kind of the idea that we were playing around with, and this concept of the league room was intentionally like quite low construction, quite cheap to make, because I can imagine people could just have an alt account that they play in. This is their league alt, and they do stuff and store their rewards on there. Or we might also have players who only like our seasonal content and just be like, okay, I played the league, now I'm going to go play another game. But it'd be cool if I can still show off the league stuff in the game. So yeah.
Why did you go with 27 construction? It's quite a random number.
Oh, where was I can't remember exactly. There's something like all the construction rooms happen on, I think it's 2579. I think that's correct. It might be 157 or something like that. And I was looking for a empty position that fit that same level up pattern that didn't already have a room and was relatively low level. And 27 just kind of stuck out to me as like, okay, that's the number that sort of feels about right to me based on all that criteria. So
Fair enough.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. Let's go to the PoH globe.
So yeah, this is the statue, right? That Husky just talked about. We
Yeah.
wanted to. Initially, we were thinking of something that would more symbolize a sort of character, but that didn't really quite gel with the theme of Trailblazer. So we wanted to get this more idea of you're exploring the world. So making a nice fancy globe would be quite nice. And considering like the existing globes in the Playroom House are just sort of, I mean, they're quite interesting because they have the whole sort of spin around and sort of look like they could move around. But they're just sort of boring spheres. So we wanted to sort of get a nice idea of what Gillinor would look like when projected onto a sphere.
So are you saying
not
it is
flat.
not flat?
I mean, this might just be some sneaky, just sort of getting people off the trail. But I mean, you can go to the bottom of the desert and have a look off the edge if you really want.
Yeah, I think this is super cool. The plaque there was just like ripped from the trophy and put on. I think we're planning to do something different when it comes to the final version, because I think that doesn't matter right now. We might actually not even have the plaque at all. But the idea, yeah, that this is when you say the idea with the statue is, and this goes with every hotspot in the room, is there's going to be some standard thing you can build that doesn't require any special materials, right? Anyone can just build the room, they'll build the pedestals, they'll build the wardrobe, they'll build the stand, and they can just leave them there at the standard ones. And if they have league rewards, then they can start building like extra tiers above that, if you know what I mean. So this would be like you get something like a Trailblazer globe from the reward store, and you use that as a material to build the statue in your room, and when you unbuild it or remove it or whatever, you get that back, similar to like Mythical Cape racks where you get the Mythical Cape back. And this would be the statue that would sort of represent the Trailblazer League. And I think this is kind of this thing that we're thinking of when we were going over all the rewards. We were like, well, how big's our reward space, right? Because we don't really want to have recolors for like everything in the game if it doesn't fit the league. There's only so many recolors we're happy producing per league. I think we've got like roughly 2-ish, which we've got the tools and the Graceful, which might technically be 4, but kind of tools is kind of 1. Like, is it always a Slayer helm? Does it rotate between them? Is there a house kit? We didn't want to have be like completely stale, and having this sort of player and house room opens up like a lot of reward space potential for us to say like, hey, you've got this perfectly self-contained sort of place you can just show off rewards and get rewards without like affecting the main game, if that makes sense. Because obviously, like, we can't just like release like a new best in slot weapon from leagues or something like that, right? So almost every reward has to be entirely cosmetic, right? Well, not even almost, they all do. So this is kind of just opening up a bit more reward space for us, hopefully, future leagues.
Yeah.
So in a PoH, we don't just have a globe, we've got a rug.
Mhm.
Ta-da!
So this is that 6x6 rug that you go underneath, and I think like the thing to note, it says in the blog, I think the rugs normally in your house are all connected. Where if you build like an opulent rug in one room, it's in the other one. This one would not be. This would be its own separate one in the league room. You can build an opulent one in there, obviously, but you can instead apply on top of it the Trailblazer rug, whatever we call it.
Yeah, and it would definitely make that room stand out more than a bit more than the other ones. I think most of the rugs in Playground House are all themed around a red color as well. I think maybe the PoH rugs are maybe cream actually.
Brownish?
Yeah, cream
We
brownish.
actually have, when we originally did the colors, we have on the next slide a variation of what we originally had pitched for the rug. Oh, and also a meme that came out of our Slack chats after we designed the rug. So we did like originally, before we had a color scheme, made it more like a red/orange theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to bring it more in line with the rest of the reward colors.
And we also were looking at it, had a long discussion internally about like Zaya, because like Zaya isn't like included in the Trailblazer League, so that's why we were like, let's just have like Zaya there, but like faded out and dark, right, to sort of symbolize that you can't go there, right? So you can see it's kind of a lot less sort of bright there, and people have already spotted the sort of teaser, I suppose, of Varlamore, right? You know, like,
oh, is that what's under there?
Well, Mod West already basically said so on Twitter.
I mean,
so.
yeah, it's not the first time we've teased towards the expansion of Zaya, and I mean technically it's in lore books. There is there is mention of a Kingdom of Varlamore somewhere, and I mean, where else is it going to be? It's going to be attached to Zaya in some form. So yeah. And again, I think we've released like maps on the merch store as well that have had that plan in there. And we've had this plan for a long time. It doesn't say that it's coming out anytime soon. It's not like a teaser in that way. It's just we do know what the general shape of things will be down there.
And worst case scenario, if like for some reason we decide to completely 180 on Varlamore and like we say to the players, Varlamore's not coming out, it's never coming out, it wouldn't be hard to edit the thing and just take it off. I
don't think Mod Ed would allow that. I think he would be very adamant.
No. Varlamore is like Ed's future baby, I suppose. You know, he's like super excited to have that in eventually. So
I mean, it's basically canon at this point. It's mentioned in a few lore books, and I think we've got characters as well that say they came from Varlamore. So it would be strange to suddenly remove it from the future plans.
And I think this is one of the things, like, I joked at the start about being, when's the next Twisted League 2? And I think it might be quite cool to see, hey, once Varlamore's out, we could do, like, another Zaya-locked league that has Varlamore in it, right? If there's got notable content there. Like, we're not ruling out possibilities like that, right?
Twisted League
we should never, like, assume that we would release the whole of Varlamore all at once, either. I feel like that sort of problem with Krend initially is that slightly bit off a bit more than we can choose, so we'd want to take a different approach to Varlamore and perhaps do it in sections if needed.
Yeah.
Alright, let's get on to the next slide, the trophies.
Cool, so we wanted to sort of keep them in theme with the previous trophies. We didn't want to change too much. And as you can see, we've sort of taken the plaque on the front and applied the new Trailblazer colours to it. And also you can see sneakily hiding there in the back is the Trailblazer trophy. Unsure what the plan is. We're doing that at the moment, but it's good to include as it's quite a cool looking trophy.
We mentioned in the blog today that we have scrapped the Trailblazer trophy, which is a shame because the trophy looks cool, but the look of the trophy isn't super important to say like we need this. And I don't know. I might talk to you about putting the globe in the dragon one or a globe in all of them or something as a figure or something. But yeah, the idea was we wanted the trophies to be kind of the same, right? Because it only just slightly different to tell you like what you got in the last league. So yeah, Trailblazer trophy's gone. There was a lot of player feedback on it that people generally didn't like it. There were a lot of complicated issues surrounding it, like people like account sharing for it and people playing unhealthy amount of time for a prolonged amount of time. We didn't have a good solution to those. We may pitch something in the future. I still stand by that if this league's really popular, Dragon might just not be as exclusive as we originally hoped it would be in its design, and there might be scope for one better than Dragon in a future league. But we've decided not to do that for this league. And it could be that there's a midway point that we meet the players on and talk about in future, like whether it's a 0.5% trophy instead of an exclusive only top 100, or something like that. So that's the gist of it. I'm sorry to people who are looking forward to it. I know I was as well, even though I would never get it.
There's nothing stopping us putting that trophy in the game, even if it's unobtainable. Like, not necessarily saying that players can't obtain it, but we have lots of NPCs that have items that you can never wear or like use. So you have like Kylie Minogue's yellow angler outfit. So we could drop the Trailblazer trophy next to the league's tutor or something as an homage to an idea that got canned.
Yeah, it could potentially be put on a pedestal nearby the league tutor, but I would worry that players might assume that that's an obtainable thing to then get in the future. Maybe not quite in the same vein as like I mean, maybe if the character was holding it, but I don't know, being forced to hold the trophy of the entire league might get a bad back or something.
Might be too heavy.
Some of the suggestions I saw it come up in chat there, and I saw it come up a lot. I saw it coming up a lot during our feedback. Was why don't you just make the top the top trophy be a fixed amount of points? The problem is that we don't even know what the threshold of Dragon is, right? The whole of the Twisted League, we didn't know exactly where Dragon was going to sit. In fact, I think at one point I was convinced it was going to sit on about 15k. It ended up being closer to 21k because people went really hard over the last 2 weeks, right? Like, it was going up at one point by about 600-700 points a day towards the end, which is pretty ridiculous. It's just really hard as a dev to do that. What we could do is say in the last 2 weeks, hey, here's the threshold for that, but that feels really bad, I suppose, for some people who maybe thought they would have got it. It's just like, you have to then only be able to play for those 2 weeks to really try and get it. It's just, it's not the end of the world if a reward, like a tradable reward or something, gets shifted slightly, or we get the price of that wrong, or it's slightly too cheap. But imagine if we said this is going to be 25k points, and then Dragon ended up being 30k, right? Top 1% was 30k. That would just end up being ridiculous, right? Because we'd have to make an amendment. It would just be...
Yeah, you'd want to set it in stone before the league starts so everyone has the same goal to go for, essentially. So it's fairer.
Yeah. I think that's all of the sides. I can't remember if... I know. This is the old idea.
Oh yeah, we had a few iterations over the final plaques. The issue we had with this original idea was that it didn't quite feel like you quite getting the difference between the league trophies. They sort of looked a bit too similar, and especially with considering the Trailblazer colours themselves are quite close to Rune, it just sort of was lost on that trophy as well. So sort of using more use of the faceplate sort of helped quite a bit there.
And I think the thing to remember is that they might look really nice with just the stones colored in something idealistic like an editor, but you're holding the trophies and your character's kind of shaking a little bit, and that logo is shrinking, growing. It's just the way that works.
Yeah.
And especially with how zoomed out it was, you really had to squint to see that the stones had changed ever so slightly color. I had them side by side in game, and I was like, wait, which league is this from? So that's why the plate, obviously, we've recolored the plates to be the cream color. That sort of really helped distinguish which one was which.
Yeah, something I think I've probably mentioned it many times already in this Q&A alone, but where the with the vert grid in old school, it's low fidelity. There's not much if you have a vert here and a vert there is no in between, and it's fine when things are all static and quite according to cardinal directions, but when you start moving the item around, that sort of straight line starts to get very... Can't see my hands, yeah. That sort of straight line starts to get all crinkled and wobbly as things go together, and some verts end up being merged together. So those RS stones, they're sort of collapse in themselves a little bit, and you start to lose the actual model itself. So yeah, expanding that to the faceplate added quite a bit and made it a bit more obvious where it's from. Oh, and also, I suppose we should talk about these other forms of the Trailblazer trophy. So we're just playing around with what the main color of the trophy should be, sort of playing around with the cream color being the main, the base color, as well as the blue color. But I think in the end we settled on the sort of brown trophy as the the Rune Dragon one looks quite cool, but it does look a bit too much like the Rune Trophy itself.
Yeah, that was kind of the weird part where like, you've got a Rune Trophy, you've got a Dragon Trophy, and now you've got a Dragon Rune Trophy.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It basically came down to at that point between just the cream and the blue, and I think the cream and the brown, and I think people just felt like the brown color is the more predominant league color out of all of the ones in the color scheme, so we should probably go for that. Although we did already note internally that like it maybe looks a bit like a bronze dragon trophy, so that's why we tried to put some of the cream highlights and the blue bits and the wings and stuff.
It's something that I suppose will never be seen as well. Is I did a mock-up of what an Olm trophy would look like if we ever did one of those for the Twisted League, and it looked really cool. But you're not gonna see that.
You should tease it on Twitter or something. Just like show it off.
I suppose I could.
I could
probably
find it and send it to Modsphere.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it might be quite a while back because I think that was back in like July. If you've got the time, we can try and fill some air. Look at the league's logo a bit more.
Well, I was going to ask both of you as well. So I know that both of you played the league, and I also played. I didn't get as far as Husky. I only made it to Ornament. Sorry, guys. But I was wondering, out of all the rewards that we've showcased, which is your favorite and the one you're going to definitely purchase, and why?
I might buy some of the Twisted League ones I missed out on last time, but I quite like the Graceful. It's something I wear quite a bit, so that's definitely the one I'd get the most use out of.
Yeah, I think the Graceful's up there for me. I think, like, to me, that's the reward that will probably cost comparatively as much as the Slayer Helm did. We don't know if players are going to earn more points or less points this league than they did last league. We're also aware of, like, if you suddenly earn twice the amount of points per hour this league, that's a problem because I really devalue the old ones. But a little bit of increase the amount of points you earn is probably okay. We have to do some testing first on that, but, like, if it was it would probably cost about that's the same amount of points, right? The Graceful. I think I'd probably go for that. I'd probably go for the tools because those are the things I'd visibly see, and then I don't know.
I guess like as well. I had forgotten about that one. That's quite cool.
Yeah, I think the teleport's cool, but I think like I generally set myself a goal of like trying to get everything I ever introduced to the game. It's a bit of an ambitious goal. I kind of tell myself that like if the players, if I can't expect the players to get it if I'm not prepared to get it. So I'll probably try and get them all as well. I managed to get all the Twisted League ones last time.
The Olm Trophy that you...
Yeah, it is a very cool looking trophy, but I think that just is based mostly on the fact that the Olm itself just has a very cool color scheme of the whites, the blacks, and then those vibrant green eyes and mouth. It's pretty cool.
So yeah, this was us saying if we had a top 100 trophy for the Twisted League, this is what that would probably have looked like. Probably the one on the right, I think I prefer the most. Because the one looks like it has twisted bows for wings.
I think that's what I was hinting at, which is quite funny. I mean, if we ever do a retwisted league, we got.
If we ever do a retwisted league and people want a trophy better than Dragon, we might go for something like this. I especially like how you have these little side spikes to the side of the head.
Yeah, you got to embrace the Olm.
Right, we are pretty much out of time. So I know that at the start, Mod West was like, there's only about a couple of rewards. Do you really think we're going to get through all this? And I was like, don't worry, Mod Husky can talk, so we'll be fine. So we made it.
Yeah, quite good timing, in fact.
It's quite funny. I've joined like a lot of... I've actually like joined a lot of sync streams, sometimes over voice chat, and people have gone like, ask me a question, I'm still talking about it 5 to 10 minutes later. That's just me. So yeah, don't underestimate Mod Husky as far as taking up time, I suppose.
You've got a lot to say. That's what we like.
You do. It's okay. So for those that missed it, tomorrow is a live stream. It's the leadership live stream where you get your spicy questions answered. So stay tuned for that. And then also we had a game update today, so check it out in game if you haven't. And we've just released this league's reward poll blog, so !leagues poll if you'd like to read that blog and see more about it. So, and that live stream tomorrow is 5 p.m. BST. So I don't know what that is in American times, so it's it's the normal time, like an hour ago, tomorrow. So there we go. Thank you for tuning in, everyone.
Yep. Thanks,
Yeah. We'll tell you the release date when we can, guys. Sorry, we can't tell you.
Not now. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.